So while gigantic warships usually steal the spotlight in almost every science fiction setting, largely because people are naturally fascinated by things of immense scale, there is also a special class of much smaller spacecrafts that commands just as much admiration from the audience. These ships may be dwarfed by massive battleships and carriers, but they earn their legendary status through other qualities, like maybe they're often faster, more maneuverable, equipped with stealth system, and maybe armed with unique super weapons, or enhanced by revolutionary technology, or commanded by extraordinary crews. Over time, these vessels begin to feel almost alive, as though they possess personalities of their own. That feeling comes from experiencing countless adventures through the eyes of these protagonistic warships, watching these ships survive impossible odds, accomplish miraculous victories, and repeatedly return home when every reason suggests that they should have been lost, even when they belong to a larger production line or a class of ships with many identical ships existing. The audience often treats one of them, particularly the vessel that was seen more often, as something truly unique. It is almost as if these ships have developed their own identities. The USS Enterprise from Star Trek is perhaps one of the best examples of this phenomenon. Despite being just one ship amongst many of its kind, its presence alone gives viewers confidence that the impossible might just somehow become possible. If another ship of the same class were sent instead, even with identical capabilities on paper, it would simply not inspire the same optimism. The same idea can be seen across countless other science fiction settings, where certain ships become legendary not because they are the biggest or the strongest, but because they somehow have become inseparable from the heroes of the story, and the countless victories that transform them from ordinary spacecrafts into timeless icons. So aside from the USS Enterprise or the Moya of Farscape or the Orville from the Orville, which are, let's say, regular size in their respective settings, there are other ships that fill a similar role, but they are way smaller than the rest. In this video, we will showcase 10 of these iconic small-sized ships that are somehow OP, or they are so unique that they command a sense of awe from us all. It is as if they are heroic in their own way. So let's get to it. So we begin here with the USS Defiant from Star Trek. This ship here became one of the most famous starships in Star Trek because it completely changed what people expected from a small Federation ship. While most other ships were large or at least medium size, the USS Defiant was small and only 170 meters long, way shorter than, let's say, the Galaxy class, which is 642 meters long, and tiny compared to the Borg cubes that it was made to fight, which were 3 kilometers across. It was packed with so much firepower and armor that it was actually too powerful for its own frame, with engines that nearly tore the ship apart during its first testings. After Commander Benjamin Sisko brought it out of storage to defend Deep Space Nine, the Defiant quickly earned a legendary reputation by standing up to the Borg, battling the Jem'Hadar, the Cardassians, Klingons, Breen, and the Dominion fleets, often surviving fights that would have destroyed ordinary ships. It became known as a tough little warship that could hit far harder than anyone expected. Although its career was relatively short, the Defiant's courage and battlefield successes were so remarkable that after it was finally destroyed during the Second Battle of Chintoka, Starfleet honored its legacy by renaming its replacement with the same name, the USS Defiant. Number 2. The Puddle Jumper from Stargate. So while the Daedalus class and the Prometheus do steal the limelight in this franchise, the real small star of the show later on would be the Ancient Puddle Jumper. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a tiny transport craft which was built to fly through stargates, but it is secretly one of the most overpowered small spacecraft in the series. It was designed by the incredibly advanced Ancients. The Puddle Jumper could travel in any environment with no problem at all. Instead of relying on heavy armor or shields, it uses an incredibly advanced cloaking device that makes it almost impossible for enemies to detect. Despite its small size, which is only around 8.5 meters long, it carries ancient drone weapons, which are some of the most powerful guided weapons in the Stargate universe. Just a single drone can obliterate enemy fighters or smash through heavily armored targets, while only a handful are capable of destroying massive Goa'uld hot-tap motherships, or even punching through the hull of powerful Wraith cruisers. On top of that, clever modifications allow the Jumper's cloak to become a temporary shield, which can generate anti-replicative fields that could wipe out entire groups of Asurans as well, and also even produce specialized effects like stun fields. Even though it has no permanent shields and limited power reserves, it constantly proved that advanced technology here in this setting is more important than size. Number 3. The White Star from Babylon 5. So in a setting where the average ship sizes are always in the kilometer range, the White Star, which is less than half the size, stings more than its bigger contemporaries. Built through the combined genius of the Minbari along with ancient Volon technology, the White Star was never meant to be just another warship, as it was designed to be a fast, intelligent, and an incredibly deadly strike vessel that could outfight ships many times its size. While enormous cruisers and destroyers relied on thick armor and overwhelming firepower, the White Star depended on incredible speed, extreme maneuverability, and technology that was centuries ahead of almost every other race. Its living Volon bioarmor could repair itself after battle and even adapt to enemy attacks over time, which makes the ship tougher the longer it survived. And despite being relatively small, it carried enough firepower to seriously threaten all the other capital ships, especially when several White Stars fought together. During the Shadow War, these ships repeatedly battled the ancient Shadow vessels, ultimately holding the fort until the first ones came and drove the shadows away. Now the fourth one here is the SSV Normandy from Mass Effect. So while the massive dreadnoughts and the Val Reapers dominate the void in Mass Effect, the real standout however is the smaller SSV Normandy SR-1. This was actually built as an experimental deep reconnaissance frigate. The Normandy wasn't designed to overpower enemies with brute force, as it was built so that they would never know it was there until it was too late. At just a fraction of the size of the galaxy's enormous warships, the Normandy packed some of the most advanced technology ever installed on a human vessel. Its revolutionary internal emission sync stealth system allowed it to hide its heat emissions, which made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors for hours at a time, something that had been considered impossible for centuries. Its small profile, exceptional speed, and agility also made it really hard to track and lock on for shots. Under Commander Shepard, the Normandy became far more than a stealth prototype, and it became the heart of countless missions that shaped the fate of the Mass Effect galaxy. Number 5. The Rocinante of the Expanse. This small frigate of Mars in the Expanse, despite its legendary status, it is not the most advanced nor the most powerful warship in the solar system. It was simply a Corvette-class light frigate built to escort the Donager-class battleships. What made it exceptional was that Martian warships were already amongst the finest ever built. Since Mars could never match Earth's numbers, it focused on superior technology and crew training. Even then, the Rocinante is far from invincible. It does carry a devastating punch for its size, with also an aftermarket railgun powerful enough to threaten much larger ships at close range. However, it has limited ammunition, limited armor compared to cruisers, and it all depends on its crew. Alex Camel is an exceptional combat pilot. Naomi Nagata is a brilliant engineer and a fine electronic warfare expert. Amos Burden keeps the ship functioning under impossible conditions. Bobby Draper later adds elite Martian military experience, and James Holden consistently makes bold tactical decisions. Just as important is the Rocinante's independence. Unlike military warships here in the series, which are tied to fleets and orders, this one here chooses its own battles. It can retreat when necessary, and often arrives in places where no other major navy can respond to. Over time, it becomes famous for surviving impossible fights, crossing the ring first, protecting civilians, and repeatedly changing the course of history here in the Expanse. Now number 6. The most famous small ship of them all is undoubtedly the Millennium Falcon. Officially, it is nothing more than a heavily modified YT-1300 light freighter that was never intended to stand toe-to-toe with military warships. Yet in the hands of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and later other daring heroes, the Millennium Falcon became one of the most legendary ships in galactic history and in science fiction. It is packed with countless illegal upgrades. It boasted engines so heavily modified that it became one of the fastest ships ever built, famously completing the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. And despite looking like an old cargo ship, The Millennium Falcon carried military-grade laser cannons, shielding, and other types of weapons. It can easily beat TIE fighters in one-to-one combats, or even in outnumbered scenarios. It can outrun the best ships of the Galactic Empire, and of course the ship's greatest weapon was always its crew. Han Solo's fearless flying, Chewbacca's engineering skills, and later the talents of Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, maybe even Rey, Finn, and others allowed the Falcon to survive impossible odds time and time again. It was also so crucial that it was the heart of the assault and the destruction of Starkiller Base of the First Order in the sequel trilogy. Anyways, moving on, we come to the TARDIS of Doctor Who. So while many of science fiction's greatest small ships earn their reputations through superior weapons or stealth or speed, the TARDIS from Doctor Who exists on an entirely different level. From the outside, it appears to be nothing more than an old blue police box. Yet inside it contains an almost limitless dimension with countless rooms and technologies beyond human understanding. More than just a spaceship, the TARDIS is a living, sentient machine that can think, communicate with its pilot, repair itself, and even influence events to keep its occupants alive. It is capable of traveling not only anywhere in space but to virtually any point in time. Even when damaged, the TARDIS has demonstrated reality-bending abilities far beyond conventional spacecraft, and that makes it able to survive impossible situations. And it can even manipulate dimensions and harness technology so advanced that entire civilizations struggle to comprehend it. Above all, the TARDIS is inseparable from the Doctor, whose intelligence, compassion, and willingness to confront impossible odds have turned this unassuming blue box into one of the most legendary vehicles in science fiction. So next is the Gunstar One from the Last Starfighter. So this was actually developed just as a prototype by the brilliant navigator called Greg. It was built to push the limits of what a Gunstar could do. Despite being relatively small, the Gunstar One carried enough offensive power to challenge an entire invasion fleet, something normally reserved for much larger warships or fleets. Its most famous weapon was the Death Blossom, an experimental system capable of unleashing a devastating 360-degree barrage that fired in every direction at once, annihilating swarms of enemy fighters within seconds. The weapon was so powerful that it completely drained the ship's energy reserves after a single use, which makes it a high-risk, high-reward trump card. Combining the enhanced weapons and the skill of Alex Rogan and Greg, Gunstar One was able to cripple the enemy aliens called the Kodans, their command ship, and their entire invasion fleet. In a single battle, this tiny prototype accomplished what an entire fleet could not, saving the Star League from near total annihilation. Thanks to its experimental technology, Gunstar One earned its place as one of science fiction's greatest examples of a small spacecraft capable of defeating enemies far beyond what its size should have allowed. The next example here is the space cruiser of Rick and Morty. So while other ships are designed around a single role, Rick Sanchez's space cruiser from Rick and Morty seems designed to do absolutely everything, and do it better than almost anything else. At first glance, it looks like a beat-up flying car cobbled together from scrap, but appearances could be more misleading. It was built by the smartest man in the multiverse. The cruiser was powered by a microverse-based power cell that generates staggering amounts of energy, and drives an advanced dark matter engine capable of crossing thousands of light years in less than an hour by warping space-time itself. The cruiser is packed with an absurd collection of hidden technologies, including powerful weapons like energy cannons, rockets, flamethrowers, railguns, laser miniguns, disintegrators, stealth systems, radio jammers, repair robots, cloning technology, robotic arms, advanced scanners, etc., AI assistants, automated piloting, and enough bizarre gadgets to solve almost any problem in the universe. It is incredibly durable despite its small size, regularly surviving battles and encounters with civilizations that have technology far beyond humanity. Oh yeah, it can even kill gods. Well, that's one big thing, isn't it? And at the end we have the Yamato from the Space Battleship Yamato universe. Here battleships can stretch for kilometers long, and alien vessels can reach the size of asteroids or even small planets. The Yamato, however, is surprisingly tiny for a ship that carries such a legendary reputation, measuring only around 265 meters long and 333 meters in the remake. The Earth's Federation's Yamato is almost a miniature vessel compared to the massive warships of civilizations like the Garmillas or the Atlantis. However, its upgraded superior weaponry and technology, and of course a determined crew, allowed it to achieve the impossible for humanity. It was originally designed as an evacuation vessel. The Yamato was transformed into humanity's greatest weapon after receiving the advanced wave motion technology from Iskandar, which turned it from a simple transport into a revolutionary warship capable of fighting at a level far beyond its physical dimensions. The weapon was built directly into the bow of the ship. The superweapon channels the power of the wave motion engine into a single-dimensional energy blast capable of annihilating fleets and even destroying objects as large as continents. Yet, the Yamato's greatest strength has never been its weapons alone. It is the people aboard it. The Yamato wins because its crew uses courage, strategy, and determination to exploit every advantage their vessel provides and every disadvantage the enemy has before a battle. And yes, so there you go. I hope you're satisfied. Those are the 10 small but overpowered heroic spaceships in science fiction. And with that, we end this video. Do hit the like button for support and also click that bell button for regular updates on new video uploads. Also subscribe to be a part of Legion Notebook. And so till the next time, take care, boys.